Now, this is the MX5 boot hinge conversion on this 1994 TVR Chimaera. Before I open the boot and explain what's been changed, a few things just worth noting from the outside. So it still retains the original chrome fittings from the original hinge. From the outside it doesn't look any different. All the changes are underneath within the aperture. And the other thing worth noting as well, the original hinge arrangement on these cars had one long gas strut on the driver's side, which often makes the boot lid sit proud on this offside wing. But that's completely flush. It's a good opportunity when doing this conversion to get all the panel gaps nice. And as you can see on this car, everything's nice and flush. No misaligned panels. Everything's sitting nicely. But the big advantage, and the whole reason for carrying out this conversion in the first place, is the boot goes a lot higher. Almost vertical. Not quite, but almost. But because they have a cantilever action as well, it moves the back edge of the boot lid away from what would be the soft top, or in this case the hard top, and it allows clearance between the screen there, so nothing fouls, everything fits as it should. And instead of having one gas strut on the driver's side making the wing sit proud, making the boot lid sit proud of the wing, sorry, as we mentioned, it's got two small gas struts instead. These hinges are from a Mark III MX5. They were second hand, 20 quid off eBay, and then it was just a case of glassing in the new fibreglass sections and then painting the boot aperture, but also fitting an adapter plate, a stainless steel adapter plate. It's got some elongated holes that correspond with the original bolt holes for the boot lid, and then two studs that protrude from it and line up with the MX5 hinge. There's one extra hole to drill and elongate in the MX5 hinge, but other than that they're pretty much a straight fit. The flange along the bottom of the hinge gets cut off as well, and a couple of mounting holes drilled in there, and then it's just a case of packing it out, a bit of trial and error, packing it out with washers, and again elongating the holes in the fibreglass so that the hinge can twist like that if it needs to get the boot lid flush. But once it's all set up properly, it fits lovely. So I do have a Chimaera in my workshop at the moment for a full repaint and this hinge conversion carrying out, so I'm going to show on that car the work needed to do this. Right, so we're ready to crack on with this. We've got the boot lid removed. It's ready for the apertures to be cut out. These are the new sections that are going in. That's the near side, the off side, pre-drilled for where the hinges are going to mount. The first job, put the templates in place and then cut out where we need to section them. First job before doing any cutting, just make sure there's no wiring looms or anything like that tucked up on the inside. Don't want to be cutting through any wires. Any wiring, just pull it away so there's clearance. And then it can be cut out. One thing that will need removing is the bracket there between the wheel arch and the boot aperture. It's just an 8mm bolt, nut and bolt in the top there. Same where it goes through the wheel arch. And then that can be removed. And the nut and bolt put back in and sealed up on the wheel arch to stop any water ingress. The new boot aperture is deeper in this area, so that bracket can't go back in. I couldn't quite get in properly with the saw around some of these tight radiuses, so I'm just going to clean this edge up, get it as neat as I can, and then offer into place the new section. Now we've cut these sections away, we can see the thickness of the fiberglass where it needs joining. So this needs tapering down on the underside. It wants to be quite thin, that. The sections that are going to be glassed in, these have already been tapered down on the edge, so they are quite thin there where they meet up. But we just need to take some material off the underside of here, all around. Along there, I'm going to do that with a rotary file and a drill. Same along here. And under there. And when it's tapered down to the correct thickness, we can glass these in. So the edge has been tapered right down now, so it's very thin. Been cleaned up on the outside and the inside to remove any traces of the black coating and any old contact adhesive. So now we can set these pieces in place, but I have a little trick for doing that, which involves putting some little blobs of filler just at intervals so that it effectively tack welds, if you like, the two pieces together. It's only temporary, but then all the fiberglassing can be done from underneath, and then afterwards the filler just gets rubbed off, and then a last little bit of fiberglass on the outside, and it's all done. And these apertures are ready for being glassed in now from behind. But first job, as we can see, it's all been masked out. Now I've used tin foil and foil tape as well. And the reason for that is if I did it with masking sheeting like this, if I brush against that with a glove covered in resin, it's going to drag, it's going to stick and pull. That stays where it is. I can tape it down to the carpet with the foil tape as well, so it's kind of in position is that, and it's not going to move as I brush against it. So it means I can get behind all of these areas here now with some fiberglass, pack it in from behind. I've taped over the front with foil tape as well where the gap is, just to stop anything from coming through from behind, stop any drips of resin coming down where we don't really want it. So it just helps me to pack it from behind properly as well. So I can get to all of this without risking getting any resin on the underlay or the carpet or anything like that. And that's going to stay where it is, it's not going to move, it's not going to drag if I brush against it. Same this side, all taped up ready. The contact faces are cleaned, and I can get right to everywhere I need to. Either from behind up here or through there. So I'm going to use a combination of resin and chopped strand mat, but I'm also going to mix up some paste as well, which is chopped strand mat, just chopped up into little bits with some scissors, mixed up with some resin to form a paste, and pack it from behind using that. So these new sections are glassed in now, been fibreglassed from behind, cleaned up with the rotary file. The joint line has been ground out slightly, just beveled out, so it'll accept a bit more fibreglass on this side, just to strengthen it up. All the filler blobs have been taken off, all the traces of filler have been removed with the rotary file. So that's all nice and clean, ready for a bit of fibreglass to be mixed up. Same this side. And then afterwards I can sand down the fibreglass in the joint and just blend it in with some body filler. All fibreglassed up inside and out. We'll leave that to properly cure now, and then we can sand it and blend it in with filler. Okay, so this fibreglass now, it's had a few days to cure properly, nice and hard. But the first job before doing anything is to remove the needles, the little pointy bits of fibreglass that have dried on the inside and the outside. I'm just going to rub over it with some 80 grit, just make sure there's no little pins sticking off it, and then it's safe to work around these parts then without fear of getting fibreglass splinters in your fingers. Just a quick rub over. Do this on the inside as well. Everywhere it's been fibreglassed, and then it's safe to handle. And the other thing as well, just want to run a little file through those mounting holes there, just to make sure that they've not been filled from behind. After sanding this down, the shape's really good. Barely any filler needed at all. Maybe the odd tiny little bit over the odd pinhole, but that's come out really nice. Hardly anything to fill there. A few coats of iron primer over the top of this once it's just had a few pinholes skimmed over, and that'll be good. Same this side, a few pinholes, but no filler needed. It's blended in nicely, that. There's a pair of drain channels to fit next that bond to the underside of the aperture. So the next job is to drill an 8mm hole, 145mm from the beginning of this hole, and that's where the centre is. Same both sides. And then the little drainage channel can be bonded up with some Sikflex, and there's a drain tube that comes out and exits behind the tank where the road is. You can just see the existing holes in the bottom of the boot floor there. One of the last jobs now, just pull the carpet back away from the back of the tank there, and this drain tube needs feeding out through those drain holes at the bottom there. There's a false bulkhead behind the tank, so they're not actually in the boot floor itself. They don't let water or anything in, so it's an ideal place to feed the drain tube out of. Out of there. Got our donor hinges here, Mazda MX5 Mark III, lightly modified. The alterations are quite simple really. The bottom flange needs cutting off and the edge cleaning up. 2 holes to drill, 105mm centres and 25mm from the centre of this pivot. And the only other modification, the original factory bolt holes, they need opening out 12mm, and there's another hole that gets drilled in the centre there. The exact dimensions of all these holes are on my website, but that's it really. Just cut the bottom flange off, open up the holes and add that hole there, and then we'll bolt in. There is an adapter plate to fit to the top flange as well. These are made out of stainless. The 2 studs go through, which line up with the Mazda hinges, and the remaining holes line up with the holes in the boot lid.